The things that make people, especially women, drawn to you sometimes without even knowing why. So here's my challenge to you. Stay with me until the very end. Because what you might discover is that the very qualities you thought were ordinary, the things you've taken for granted about yourself, are the exact things that make you stand out. And who knows? By the time we're done, you may look at yourself with new eyes. You may realize that the years haven't diminished your appeal. They've sharpened it. They've refined it. They've made you into the kind of man people notice for reasons far beyond what the mirror shows. Now, before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do it now. Hit the bell so you never miss future videos like this. And here's the deal. If what I'm about to share hits home, drop a 1 in the comments. If you think I've missed the mark, drop a 0. Because my goal is simple, to make videos that truly matter to you. Alright, let's begin. Sign number 1. People naturally come to you for advice or support. Now, you might not think of this as a form of attractiveness because it doesn't look like the obvious compliments or stares you might get when you were younger. But in reality, this is one of the clearest signals that others see something in you. Something magnetic, trustworthy, even admirable. Here's why. As men age, we accumulate something younger people don't yet have: life experience. We've lived through wins and losses, mistakes and victories, heartbreaks and successes. And whether you realize it or not, that experience shows up in how you speak, how you react, and how steady you remain when others would panic. People can sense that. They see that you've walked through storms and made it out the other side. And because of that, they lean on you. They seek your perspective. They value your presence in ways that go far beyond surface-level looks. Have you ever stood in front of the mirror and asked yourself quietly, do people still find me attractive? Do they still notice me when I walk into a room? Does the charm I once had still carry weight in this stage of life? It's a question more men than you realize ask themselves. Because no matter how old we get, there's always that little voice that wonders, do I still turn heads? Do I still matter in that way? Society has taught us that youth equals attractiveness. Smooth skin, thick hair, chiseled jawlines. But here's the truth most men overlook. Attractiveness evolves. It doesn't disappear with age. It transforms. And often it becomes even more powerful. Think about it. What makes a man truly magnetic isn't just a face without wrinkles. It's presence. It's wisdom. It's a calm steadiness that younger men often can't yet embody. It's the way you carry yourself after decades of life experience. It's the subtle confidence of knowing who you are and not needing to prove it to anyone. What you may not realize is this: you could already be far more attractive than you give yourself credit for. Because attractiveness is not only in what people see, it's in what they feel when they're around you. It's in how they respond when you speak. It's in the quiet signals they send, the extra attention, the respect, the way conversations flow differently with you than with others. In fact, there are clear, undeniable signs that you still have striking appeal. Signs that many men dismiss or overlook because they're too focused on the mirror, instead of noticing the world's reaction to them. And that's what this video is about. Today we're going to explore 7 powerful signs that reveal you're more attractive as an older man than you may realize. And I promise you, they're not about chasing youth, dyeing your hair, or hitting the gym until you collapse. These signs go deeper than surface looks. They're about energy, character, style, presence. Let me give you a story. I had a friend, we'll call him David. He's in his mid-60s, and for most of his life, he never thought of himself as especially good-looking. In fact, if you asked him, he'd probably shrug and say, "I'm just average." But here's the interesting thing. Everywhere David went, people would come to him for advice. At work, younger men would stop by his office, not just to ask about projects, but to get his opinion on how to navigate challenges in their careers. At family gatherings, nieces and nephews would sit beside him and ask for relationship advice. Even in casual settings like a coffee shop or a community event, complete strangers seemed to gravitate toward him, asking for directions or sparking conversations just to hear his thoughts. At first, David didn't think much of it. He figured people were just being polite. But over time, he realized something important. It wasn't coincidence. People trusted him. His calm energy, his ability to listen, his thoughtful responses. It all made people feel safe and respected. And that, whether he knew it or not, was deeply attractive. You see, women in particular notice this kind of energy. A man who can listen without judgment, who speaks with clarity, who doesn't try to dominate but instead offers wisdom. This is incredibly appealing. Why? Because it shows maturity. It shows emotional intelligence. It shows strength without arrogance. And let's be real, when you were younger, maybe you had the looks, the energy, the quick charm. But now, you have something rarer. You have gravitas. That's the weight your words and presence carry when people seek you out. Not because you shouted the loudest, but because they know you have something worth hearing. So how do you recognize this sign in your own life? Pay attention. Do people often come to you for advice, whether it's about work, relationships, finances, or just life in general? Do younger men seek your guidance on how to handle things you've already been through? Do women linger in conversations with you, asking for your opinion not just because they need it, but because they want it? In group settings, do you find that people turn their heads to hear your perspective, even when you weren't trying to dominate the room? If the answer is yes, even occasionally, then you need to realize something. That's not just random. That's attraction at work in one of its purest forms. Because here's the truth. Good looks might get someone's attention for a moment. But wisdom, dependability, a steady presence, that's the kind of attractiveness that keeps people coming back. That's what makes you magnetic without you even realizing it. And if you've ever thought to yourself, I'm not as attractive as I used to be, I want you to remember this. When people seek your advice, they're not just acknowledging your knowledge. They're acknowledging you, the man you've become, the confidence you project without saying a word, the comfort you bring just by being there. And trust me, whether or not they say it outright, that is one of the clearest signs you're still an attractive older man. Think about this. When was the last time someone said, "Nice jacket. Love that shirt. Man, you look sharp today"? For many older men, compliments like these can feel small, even easy to dismiss. You might brush them off with a quick, "Oh, this old thing," or assume people are just being polite. But here's the truth. When you're consistently hearing comments about your style, your grooming, or just how put together you look, it's not an accident. It's a signal. It means people are noticing you. It means you're standing out. And yes, whether you believe it or not, it's a mark of attractiveness. Why this matters more than you think. You see, style isn't about being flashy or chasing trends meant for 20-year-olds. It's about the quiet message you send when you respect how you present yourself. A crisp shirt, a well-fitted jacket, a clean shave, or a well-kept beard. Even posture. These small details whisper to the world, I care about myself. I have standards. I value how I show up. And people pick up on that energy subconsciously. They may not say, "Wow, this man must have a strong sense of self-worth." But they will say, "Wow, you look good." It's attraction wrapped in admiration. Example story: Robert's shift. Let me give you a story. There's a man I know, let's call him Robert. He's 68. For most of his life, he never thought much about clothes. He wore whatever was comfortable, whatever was easy. He figured, I'm too old to care about fashion. Nobody notices anyway. But one day, his daughter gifted him a tailored blazer. Dark navy, slim but not tight. First he resisted. Said it wasn't him. But he wore it to a dinner party. And something shifted. People noticed immediately. A colleague said, "Robert, that jacket really suits you." A friend teased, "Careful, you're going to start turning heads again." Even strangers smiled at him in a way they hadn't before. First, Robert shrugged it off. He thought they're just being nice. But the comments kept coming, not just about the jacket but about his shoes, his watch, his overall presence. It wasn't vanity, it was recognition. And here's the deeper truth. It wasn't the jacket that made Robert magnetic. It was what the jacket revealed. That he still had vitality, taste, presence. That he still cared. How to notice this in your own life. So how do you know if this sign is true for you? Pay attention. Do people comment on your clothes even casually? Do they say things like, "You clean up well?" Or "You've still got it?" When you walk into a room, do people give a second glance? Not because you're flashy, but because you carry yourself with quiet polish. Even subtle reactions count. A smile from the cashier, someone leaning in during conversation, a nod of approval from another man who respects your effort. These aren't just empty gestures. They're clues. Clues that your presence is registering on a deeper, more attractive level. The bigger picture. Here's the key. Style doesn't fade with age. In fact, it often gets stronger. Why? Because you now have the maturity to know who you are. You don't chase trends, you refine your look. You don't dress to impress, you dress to express. And that authenticity, that confidence wrapped in subtle sophistication, is magnetic. It's why people notice you. It's why they compliment you. So the next time someone says, "You look great today," don't brush it off. Accept it. Own it. Because they're not just complimenting your jacket or your shoes. They're complimenting the man wearing them. Sign number 3. Women hold eye contact with you longer than usual or glances linger. They say the eyes never lie. And it's true, before words are spoken, before gestures are made. There's the language of the gaze. Silent, subtle, yet more powerful than most men realize. Think about it, you're at a cafe sipping coffee. Or you're browsing at a bookstore, casually running your hand over the spine of a novel. You glance up and there it is, someone's eyes meeting yours. Now there are quick, polite glances. The kind we exchange with strangers in passing. But then there are the other ones, the ones that hang in the air just a little longer. That fraction of a second where time seems to slow down. That's no accident. That's a signal. Why it matters more as you age. As we get older, many men fall into the trap of thinking they've become invisible. That women only notice younger men. That their own presence is somehow muted. But here's the secret. Maturity has its own gravitational pull. Eye contact cuts past superficial things like hairlines or six-packs. Zeroes in on presence. And when a woman holds your gaze longer than necessary, what she's acknowledging, consciously or not, is that you carry something deeper. Could be confidence. Could be wisdom. It could simply be that steady, grounded energy that comes with age. Whatever it is, it's speaking louder than words. Example story. Charles and the cafe glances. Take Charles. He's 72. Retired. Lives a quiet life. Doesn't think much about how others see him. For years, he assumed younger women barely noticed him anymore. But one day, sitting at his favorite cafe, reading the paper, he noticed something odd. A woman at the next table caught his eye. He nodded politely, then went back to reading. But when he looked up again, she was still looking. Not staring, not being obvious, but her gaze lingered. A few seconds longer than normal. Long enough to register. This started happening more often. At the bookstore, in the grocery line, even during walks in the park. Women, sometimes his age, sometimes younger, would hold his gaze. And when he looked away, sometimes they'd glance back. At first, Charles dismissed it. They're probably just zoning out. But eventually he realized no. They weren't looking past him. They were looking at him. And that realization hit hard. He wasn't invisible. His presence still carried weight. His energy still mattered. How to notice this in your life? So how do you know if this sign is true for you? The trick is paying attention to the slight extensions in human interaction. In a conversation, does someone's eye contact linger just long enough to make you aware of it? When you look across a room, does a woman meet your eyes and then hold them, even for a heartbeat longer than necessary? After looking away, does she glance back at you, almost checking in to see if you're still there? These are microsignals, easy to miss if you're not tuned in. But once you start noticing, you'll realize they happen more often than you think. The bigger picture. Eye contact is primal. It bypasses logic, age, and words. A lingering glance is rarely accidental. It's a flicker of interest, a silent acknowledgement of your presence. And here's the beauty. It doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, or 70. When someone's eyes hold yours, it's proof that attraction isn't bound to youth. It's bound to energy, presence, and how you carry yourself in the world. So next time you catch someone's gaze and it lingers, don't dismiss it. Don't tell yourself it's nothing. Recognize it for what it is. A mirror reflecting the quiet magnetism you still carry. Because sometimes the eyes see what words can't say. Sign number 4. People naturally gravitate toward you. You're magnetic without trying. Some men chase attention. They talk louder, laugh harder, try to dominate every conversation just to be seen. But then there are the others, the rare few, who don't need to chase anything. They simply walk into a room, and suddenly the air shifts. Conversations open up around them. People lean in closer. Smiles appear. That's not coincidence. That's presence. And when you have it, you don't need to push. People pull themselves toward you. The deeper explanation. As you grow older, something incredible can happen if you've taken care of yourself. Not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually, you become steady. You're not rattled by small things. You don't feel the need to prove yourself in every conversation. You've lived, you've learned, and that gives you a quiet confidence that younger men can't fake. That calm energy is magnetic. People feel safer around you. They feel more comfortable. They sense that you are grounded, reliable, and authentic. And in a world full of noise and insecurity, that steadiness is rare. It's why people gravitate to you at gatherings. Why conversations seem to circle back to you. Why laughter and warmth seem to grow when you're part of the group. And yes, why women in particular are drawn to that quiet magnetism. Because attraction isn't always about being the loudest man in the room. Sometimes it's about being the calm center everyone else naturally wants to orbit. Example story: Michael and the family event. Let's paint a picture. Michael, in his early 70s, isn't flashy. He doesn't dress to draw attention. He doesn't try to outshine anyone. But when he walks into a family event, a birthday, a holiday gathering, people notice. Not because he bursts in with a joke or demands the spotlight. In fact, he's often the opposite. He carries himself with composure. He moves slowly, deliberately. He listens before he speaks. And yet, within minutes, people start drifting toward him. Nieces and nephews sit by him, eager to share their news. His brothers ask his opinion on sports, politics, or family decisions. His daughters bring their friends over to introduce him. Even women he's just met find themselves smiling and leaning in when he talks. Michael isn't trying. He's simply there. But the room bends toward his presence like a compass needle finding north. That's the quiet magnetism of a man who has nothing to prove. and everything to offer. How to notice this in your life. So how do you know if this is happening to you? Pay attention to the subtle cues. In groups, do people end up circling near you without you asking for it? Do conversations seem to flow more easily around you? Do people turn to you when there's a lull, as if you're the anchor? Do strangers open up faster than you'd expect? Sharing stories, asking questions, confiding in you, as though they've known you longer than they have? Do people smile or relax more when you enter the room, like your presence lightens the atmosphere? These little details are easy to miss, but they reveal a deeper truth. Your energy draws people in. You don't have to chase anyone, because your authenticity makes you magnetic. What draws people in isn't just appearance, it's vitality. Researchers call it aliveness cues. Things like posture that shows confidence instead of collapse, a stride that shows purpose instead of aimlessness, eye contact that shows connection instead of withdrawal, a voice that still carries strength, rather than fading into the background. According to relationship experts who've studied why women often feel drawn to older men, it's not simply the gray hair or the maturity. It's the presence, the mix of stability, groundedness, and that lingering sense of vigor. When a man embodies this, he comes across as dependable and deeply alive. That combination is irresistible. Example story: Thomas, 69. Take Thomas, 69 years old. He's not a fitness junkie. He doesn't spend hours at the gym. But he does something simple: he walks every morning. Upright, steady at his own pace. He doesn't rush, but he moves with purpose. When he talks to people, he looks them in the eye. He gestures with ease. He laughs fully, not the half-hearted chuckle some men fall into. And here's what happens: people notice. Neighbors often stop him to say, "You look so young for your years," or "You've got so much energy." Even strangers have commented, "You don't move like someone your age." At first, Thomas brushed it off. "Oh, they're just being polite." But then he realized, no, they're seeing something real. They're picking up on the vitality he still carries in his body, his posture, his energy. And that vitality makes him quietly, undeniably attractive. How to notice this in your affairs, how you can spot whether this applies to you. Do people say things like, "You look energetic," "You're young at heart," or "You don't seem your age"? Do you often catch women smiling at you after you walk by? Not because of your clothes, but because of the way you carry yourself? Do friends or coworkers comment on your posture, the way you move, or your lively presence? The bigger picture. This kind of presence doesn't come from youth, muscles, or trying to impress. It comes from living, from building character, learning patience, developing wisdom. And here's the best part. This magnetism tends to get stronger with age, because while others are still figuring themselves out, you've grown into who you are. You don't need to perform. You don't need to compete. You simply exist as yourself, and people can feel it. That's the mark of true attraction. Not the man who shouts the loudest, but the one whose quiet gravity pulls others closer. So if you notice that people naturally want to be around you, take it as a sign. You're not just attractive, you're magnetic. Sign number 5. Your energy, posture, and physical presence still project vitality. When people think of attractiveness, they often picture six-pack abs or a head full of thick hair. But here's the truth. For an older man, what really stands out isn't a bodybuilder's frame. It's vitality. The way you move, the way you stand, the way your energy radiates into a room. It's not about whether you can bench press 200 pounds or run a marathon. It's about whether your presence communicates life. Think about posture. A man who slouches, who shuffles his feet, who avoids eye contact, he sends the message that he's shrinking back from the world. But a man who stands upright, shoulders back, head lifted, walking with purpose, even slowly, sends a completely different signal. He says, I'm still here. I'm still alive. And I'm still engaged with life. That's attractive. It's not only physical. It's also in your voice, your gestures, your enthusiasm. The way you laugh deeply, or the way you tell a story with your hands, or the spark that still shows in your eyes. All of that communicates energy, and energy is magnetic. People, especially women, pick up on that instantly. The deeper explanation. In fact, psychologists studying attraction have found that even in silence, do people seem to notice you when you walk into a room, simply because your energy announces you before your words do? And here's a self-check. Take note of your body language. Do you slouch without realizing it? Do you shuffle when you could walk with more intention? Do you let fatigue dominate your expression? Or do you carry yourself with a spark that says you're still fully alive? The bigger picture. Your physical presence is one of your strongest signals of attraction. It doesn't fade with gray hair or wrinkles. It's amplified by how you show up. An older man with straight posture, purposeful steps, and engaged energy is far more appealing than a younger man who slouches, avoids eye contact, or carries himself with uncertainty. That vitality doesn't just tell people you're strong. It tells them you're engaged with life. It tells them you care about how you move through the world. And it tells them you still have plenty of fire left inside. So if you hear those compliments about looking lively, if people notice your posture, if strangers see you as energetic for your age, take that as confirmation. Your vitality is still shining through. And that vitality is deeply, deeply attractive. There's something magical about laughter. It dissolves tension, builds trust, and brings people closer together faster than almost anything else. And when you're the man who can spark that laughter, who can bring lightness into a room, you instantly become more attractive. Now let's be clear. We're not talking about being a stand-up comedian or having razor-sharp one-liners. Humor doesn't have to be perfectly timed punchlines. Often it's the opposite. It's your willingness to be playful, to share joy, even if the joke is a little cheesy. It's the fact that you don't take yourself too seriously. And here's the hidden truth. That kind of humor, simple, warm, human humor, is deeply attractive, especially in an older man. Even in silence, do people seem to notice you when you walk into a room, simply because your energy announces you before your words do? And here's a self-check. Take note of your body language. Do you slouch without realizing it? Do you shuffle when you could walk with more intention? Do you let fatigue dominate your expression? Or do you carry yourself with a spark that says you're still fully alive? The bigger picture. Your physical presence is one of your strongest signals of attraction. It doesn't fade with gray hair or wrinkles. It's amplified by how you show up. An older man with straight posture, purposeful steps, and engaged energy is far more appealing than a younger man who slouches, avoids eye contact, or carries himself with uncertainty. That vitality doesn't just tell people you're strong. It tells them you're engaged with life. It tells them you care about how you move through the world. And it tells them you still have plenty of fire left inside. So if you hear those compliments about looking lively, if people notice your posture, if strangers see you as energetic for your age, take that as confirmation. Your vitality is still shining through. And that vitality is deeply, deeply attractive. There's something magical about laughter. It dissolves tension, builds trust, and brings people closer together faster than almost anything else. And when you're the man who can spark that laughter, who can bring lightness into a room, you instantly become more attractive. Now let's be clear. We're not talking about being a stand-up comedian or having razor-sharp one-liners. Humor doesn't have to be perfectly timed punchlines. Often it's the opposite. It's your willingness to be playful, to share joy, even if the joke is a little cheesy. It's the fact that you don't take yourself too seriously. And here's the hidden truth. That kind of humor, simple, warm, human humor, is deeply attractive, especially in an older man. Because it signals more than wit. It signals kindness, confidence, approachability. It shows that you're not bitter, not weighed down, but still able to find joy. The deeper explanation. Psychologists who study attraction often highlight humor as one of the most universally desired traits. Why? Because humor communicates several powerful qualities at once. Confidence, you're not afraid to speak, to risk a joke, to invite others into your world. Emotional intelligence, you can read the room, sense when people need lightness and offer it. Positivity, you bring joy instead of draining energy. You make people feel better simply by being around. Connection, shared laughter creates an instant bond. Two people laughing together feel closer, even if they've just met. For older men, this matters even more. Because while youth may bring physical energy, humor brings emotional vitality, and that never gets old. Example story. Andrew and his corny jokes. Take Andrew. He's in his mid-60s, retired, a grandfather of 3. He's not slick. He's not the kind of man who memorizes jokes to impress people. But he has this way of dropping little one-liners, light-hearted comments, or dad jokes in everyday conversation. Some of them are groan-worthy. Some are silly. But here's the thing, people love them. His grandkids laugh. His friends smile. And even women he meets at community events or in casual conversations end up laughing along. Not because the jokes are genius, but because they're delivered with warmth, with twinkle-in-the-eye charm. Andrew once said, "I thought people were laughing at me, not with me." But over time he realized no, they were laughing because they enjoyed him. His humor wasn't about the perfect punchline. It was about the joy and lightness he brought into every interaction. That made him magnetic. How to notice this in your life. Here's how you can tell if your humor is part of your attractiveness. When you crack a simple joke, maybe even a little corny, do people genuinely laugh, not just give a polite chuckle? Do people seem to relax more around you, loosening up after you make a funny comment? Do you notice women smiling longer than expected when you tease playfully or tell a light story? Do people repeat your jokes later or mention how fun it is to be around you? And here's the biggest sign. Do people invite you to gatherings specifically because you make it fun? If the answer is yes, that's not random. That's a reflection of your charm. People are drawn to those who can lighten the mood, and your humor, even if you don't take it seriously, is one of your strongest signals of attractiveness. The bigger picture. Humor is more than entertainment. It's connection. It shows that you're still vibrant, still playful, still capable of joy. And when people laugh with you, they're not just responding to your words, they're responding to you. So don't downplay it. Don't dismiss it as just a silly joke. Pay attention to the way people's faces light up around you. Notice how often people laugh with you, not at you. Because that laughter is a reflection of something deeper. Your ability to make people feel good, safe, and happy in your presence. And that, more than anything, is deeply, undeniably attractive. Not every signal of attraction comes as a dramatic gesture or a direct compliment. In fact, some of the most telling signs are subtle, almost hidden, because they happen naturally and unconsciously. These are the little behaviors people display when they admire or are drawn to you, even if they never put it into words. Think of it this way. Human beings are wired to give off microsignals when we like someone, whether it's admiration, respect, or attraction. These signals might show up as small changes in body language, tone of voice, or the way someone positions themselves near you.